Today is an introduction to ratios and representing relationships between two different quantities. So ratios are all about relationships. So in this first part, we're just going to compare some quantities here. So for example, I have some statements here and it says there are blank graphing calculators to blank protractors. Well, I have 5 graphing calculators. And then these are the protractors. I have 7 to 7 protractors. Go ahead and fill in the rest of those. Pause your video and do that, and then unpause to check your work. Okay, so here's what I came up with. So order is important here. We have to keep things in the correct order, whether it's graphing calculators first and then compasses, or compasses and then protractors. Down here, we compared to the total number of objects. So I had 7 protractors to 16 total objects. If I count everything up here, I have 16 total. The last statement here, the number of graphing calculators is 5/16 of the total number of objects. So there's 16 objects and 5 of them are the calculators. So that's where we get the 5/16. Okay. In this next part, we're going to play a little bit of, I call it trash get ball. So what you're going to do, if you're at home, you can just throw whatever you have with you into a trash can or recycle bin. If you're at school, you can use anything from your binder, papers that you no longer need, maybe some loose papers in your backpack. If you've already cleaned out your binder and you don't have anything there, you're welcome to just grab 10 sheets of paper from the recycle bins up front. And then when you're ready, you're just going to go from a pretty good distance back, and you're going to throw into the recycle bin, so those 2 boxes up at the front on either side of the clear touch screen under the whiteboards. And you're going to do this about 10 times, and you're just going to organize in a T-chart here the number of shots you made and the number of shots you missed. This is a good time to clean out your binder too. If you have 10 sheets of paper there that you no longer need, you can use those for your trash get ball. So pause your video, go ahead and make your 10 shots, and then you're going to turn the page to answer some questions about that. Okay, so for these next few questions, you are going to answer them based off the number of shots you made and the number of shots you missed. So you should have a T-chart with your 10 shots, and if you're writing a statement just like the ones in that first activity, that first part, you would say something like this: there were blank shots made to blank shots missed. And you're going to fill in the number of shots you made versus the number of shots you missed. The next one, letter B, describes the relationship between the number of shots you made and then the total number of shots. So there were blank shots made and then 10 total shots. All right, and then in that last letter C, what fraction of your shots did you make and what fraction did you miss? So you shot 10 total, so you would say I made blank tenths of my shots. So if I made 4 shots, I would say 4/10. And then maybe I missed 6 of them, so I would say I missed 6/10 of my shots. So you would fill in your fractions accordingly. Okay. This next part here is all about what we call tape diagrams. So we are going to read these diagrams so we can start to understand them. So, the diagram we're reading, it says part 3, reading a diagram. And the diagram we're reading, I'm going to make a note here, this is called a tape diagram. It's called a tape diagram. Okay, so it's saying that you mix different amounts of paint to create some new colors, and we're going to write some statements that describe the relationships between the amounts of paint. So this is showing blue paint and green paint. So my statement, there are 4 parts blue for every 3 parts green. Okay, so I would just fill in the number of boxes I have there. All right, letter B, flip it over. This time we have 2 parts orange and 3 parts yellow. So there are 2 parts orange. Fill that in here. for every 3 parts yellow. Now go ahead and pause your video and try to mimic those 2 statements in letters C and D, and then you can unpause to check your work. Okay, for letter C, I said there are 4 parts red for every 2 parts blue. And then letter D, there is 1 part white for every 5 parts purple. All right, let's go ahead and turn our page. And the last thing we're going to do is practice making these tape diagrams. This is what you're going to do on your homework following these steps. So you are going to create the homework on paper following these steps. So we're going to create some tape diagrams here. So just like the diagrams that we were reading previously. So letter A, for every 3 boys standing in line, there are 4 girls. So 3 boys, 4 girls. So how we want to do this, first we want to label the 2 quantities we're comparing, the 2 items or objects. So in this case, it's boys and girls. So I'm going to start by labeling boys and girls. So just like on the tape diagrams we just looked at, there was blue and green, and then orange and yellow. This time we're comparing boys and girls. You do need a ruler. It is required to create these. What you want to do is use the centimeter side. We'll just always use the centimeter side here to make sure that we have even boxes in our tape diagram. We want every part to be equal. Okay, so for boys, I have 3 boys. So what I'm going to do is draw a line here that goes up to 3 centimeters. Then I'm just going to move my ruler down here slightly and draw another line. And then I'm just going to draw a line at each centimeter mark so that I have 3 equal pieces. Then I'm going to start at the same spot. This is important. You want to start at the same spot. And now for girls, it said 4 girls. So I'm going to draw a line up to the 4 this time. Move it down up to the 4. And again, I'm going to draw a line at each centimeter. So we start in the same spot. Our lines should all line up this way. Okay. Let's go ahead and try one more together. So part B says for each vote Brian received, Sasha received 6 votes. So for each vote, that's telling me 1. For each 1 vote Brian receives, Sasha receives 6. So I'm going to start by labeling Brian and Sasha. So for Brian, that's 1 vote. So I'm just going to put my centimeters here, and I'm just going to draw 1. Bring it down here a little bit. Okay, so there's Brian's. I'm going to move down here to Sasha. I'm just going to bring the ruler down, and I'm going to go all the way to 6 for Sasha. Okay, move the ruler down. Okay, and then I'm going to draw my lines at each centimeter. Okay, perfect. All right, I want you to pause your video and try to do the last 2 on your own. So on letter C, it says the class counts the number of vehicles that pass by its school from 1 to 2. That is actually unnecessary information. What we need to know is that there are 3 times as many cars as trucks. So you're actually going to create a tape diagram that compares cars and trucks. So go ahead and pause your video, try letter C and then letter D, and then unpause to check your work. All right, so 3 times as many cars as trucks. That means if I have 1 truck, I'm going to have 3 cars. If I had 2 trucks, I would have 6 cars, and so on. But I'm just showing 1 to 3 there. In letter D, it's 5 parts aloe for every 2 parts distilled water. So I labeled them aloe and water. Here's my 5 parts and my 2 parts.